appreciate your time this morning. I have 148 slides in 900 seconds. I also work at a firm called L2. We benchmark companies, 1,250 data points across 4 dimensions. We do it across 1,800 brands, 11 geographies, and we sit down with brands, tell them where they're strong and weak relative to their competitive set. We like to think we can see patterns of where brands are investing or divesting across the ecosystem. Last year on this stage, I was fortunate enough to have a platform. The video went quote-unquote viral, at least for a professor, where I boldly made the prediction that Amazon would decline in value. As soon as I said that, this is what happened to the stock. It's literally, I don't have time for applause. It's literally as if a billion people watched me and said, it's clear this guy has absolutely no idea what he's talking about, let's go buy the stock. First observation, we get it wrong all the time. I hope a lot of this is right, but I know some of it's wrong. So the four horsemen, Apple, Amazon, Facebook, and Google, have all had an exceptional year. They've gone from the GDP of Spain in terms of their market cap to the GDP of Canada. To give you a sense of the outsized value creation, that's the economic value of Canada spread across the population of the Lower East Side. Google's market cap, as you can see, dwarfs a ton of other companies in the ad-supported media space. Amazon, it's difficult to find retailers other than Walmart that can match the market capitalization of Amazon. In November and December in the US, they controlled 43% of all e-commerce. The next 10 combined accounted for just 24%. It is now Amazon and the 7 dwarfs of the world of e-commerce. In Europe, it's largely the same. Their growth this year of $4 billion is approximately the same as the next 9 largest e-commerce companies in Europe. Facebook continues to be the most successful thing in the history of time. There are 1.1 billion self-identified Catholics. There are 3.4 billion people with a meaningful relationship with Facebook. It's more successful than Buddha, all of the Kardashians. It is the most successful thing in the history of time. Apple, it's difficult to find enough companies to equate to the growth. This is not apples to apples. This is how much revenue Apple added last year. We said, watch out, LVMH, Kering, and Prada, here comes Apple. This is how much revenue they added. They added these companies' revenue to their top line just in 2015. They added $51 billion. So in sum, it's Jeff, Larry, Tim, and Mark's world. We just shop, search, text, and post in it. We talk at these conferences about the winners, but we typically don't talk about the losers. When companies are growing 20 and 30% a year in a 2% growth economy, there's someone on the wrong end of that coin. Let's talk about some of the victims. Game of Phones, effectively, Cassili has dragons, and initially, she can feed the dragons rats and goats, but over time, as the dragons grow, they need to start eating cities. This is Westeros. It's the same thing with these companies. It's not whether or not these companies will get into automobiles, grocery, or television. They have no choice but to get into them because they are becoming so big and their voracious appetites will lead them to start eating any city that is profitable and growing. Let's talk about Facebook and Google together in terms of their attack on the world of media. They are growing at 40 and 12% respectively versus traditional media, which is either flat or in decline. In 2010, we said magazines would be Facebook. Facebook was at 2 billion. Magazines were at 18. Just a short few years later, magazines have exploded down to 11 billion, and Facebook is at 16. Google is about to catch the entire print industry in the UK. The advertising industrial complex is about to come to an end, and the downstream service providers and conglomerates are about to take their turn at the woodshed. The house that advertising built was consumer packaged goods. They taught us that detergents and soaps could be wrapped in emotion. You were a better mom. You were more American. You were a more elegant European if you used a certain type of hand soap. This is the house that advertising built. Last year, the house that advertising built, almost 90% of all CPG brands lost share, and 2/3 lost revenue. Why? Because advertising sucks. And if you're wealthy, you can opt out of advertising. We are now downloading Modern Family and paying $2 from it from iTunes solely so we can avoid the advertising. Advertising is becoming a tax only poor people pay. L'Oreal, Jean-Paul Argonne, the brands that grew the most in 2014 were low advertising intensive like Urban Decay, like Kiehl's. The head of Estee Lauder, the fastest brands, including MAC or Jo Malone or La Mer or Bobbi Brown, are not advertised in the traditional way. Digital agencies and offline media companies and ad conglomerates are trying to respond to becoming more digitalish. If you're looking to meet the chief digital officer at Mindshare or NBC and he or she is not available, don't worry, there are 5 others. Other ad tech companies. Well, isn't ad tech a great business then? Isn't advertising moving online? The kids come to my office hours after class. They never want to talk about brand strategy. They want to talk about careers, and I tell them one thing. If you want to go into ad tech, it's a great business as long as you're working for Facebook or Google. Everybody else is going to go out of business. E-commerce is an outstanding business as long as you're working for Amazon. Everyone else will either get bought by Amazon or grow out of business. This is a duopoly. This is the stock performance of Facebook and Google. This is the stock performance of the other ad tech companies that have gone public. It's becoming a lottery economy, more venture capital going into the ecosystem, but fewer exits. It truly is a winner-take-all ecosystem. The mobile ad market, ground zero for innovation, it's a duopoly. 2 companies control 50% of the global market for mobile advertising, and every day they eat more share. Let's talk about Amazon and Apple in the context of retail. It is difficult to find enough companies who grew as fast as Amazon and Apple. Combined, they grew about $65 billion. To give you a sense of the scale, Nike had its best year in history last year, almost increased its stock by 50%. It grew $2.8 billion. We couldn't find enough brands and retailers to match the growth of Amazon and Apple, so we had to go outside the industry and add Volvo, Mercedes, BMW, and Daimler Chrysler, and Toyota to match just the growth of Apple and Amazon. Last year, Amazon accounted for 51 cents of every increase in spend online. Over half of online sales increased last year from one firm, Amazon. They're now responsible for 25% of all of the growth of all of retail in the US. Amazon has redefined the way we think about building businesses, the same way Game of Thrones has redefined modern television. What did Game of Thrones do that was so unique? It's not better acting, it's better science fiction. It took the hero and it started killing them. We had never seen that before. That's as if in the 60s, if the Goldfinger had let the laser keep going. We're not used to that. By the way, if you see Special Agent Carrie Matheson walking around Munich, do not sleep with her, it will not end well. People say Amazon can't be profitable. Amazon can be profitable anytime it wants. It has consciously decided not to be profitable. Why? Profits are heroin to investors. They love them, they get addicted to them, and when you take them away, they get very irritable. When Walmart decides to make big capex to compete with Amazon, which is the right move, the market responds angrily. Markets do not like nausea and up and down, they like consistent. No company is more consistent than Amazon. It runs purely at break even. Mickey Drexler, the former CEO of the Gap, now CEO of J.Crew, encapsulated it perfectly. How do you compete with a giant that doesn't want to make money? And that is Amazon. What is the product that defines our age? It's the mobile phone. The product that defines our age, 92% of the profits are going to one brand, Apple. Samsung gets about 13 or 14%, and everybody else fights over the losses. PCs are in structural decline, right? Don't tell Apple that. Apple sold more PCs in 15 than they did in 14. Let's talk about Apple's failure. The media thinks everything's going to change the world or is a total failure. You will never see a headline that says Apple Watch sales pretty good. You just don't see that. So everyone's decided Apple Watch is a failure. Let's talk about the failure that is the Apple Watch. Samsung owns 74% of the smartwatch market. Apple came in and overnight, Apple took the entire share away from Samsung. Look at the stock price over the last 3 years of Apple, up 67%. Now look at the stock price of every company in the wearables or the smartwatch market or the watch market. Ask watch players, Richemont, Swatch, if they think the Apple Watch was a failure. The Apple Watch will do between $5 and $10 billion in sales this year. The entire Swiss watch industry is 25. This is killing the watch industry. In its first year of business, it was the second largest watch company in the world. We never had a product launch in a mature industry be that big. When you take on Apple, do it at your own risk. Fitbit announces their plays to directly take on the Apple Watch. It drops 11%. In a digital age, the team with the best player wins. Talent is a huge issue. This is the number of people that have gone from amazing firms. We can scrape LinkedIn data now. From P&G, L'Oreal, Unilever, Estée Lauder, Keurig, Richmond, Alabama. How many of them have gone from Google, Facebook, and Amazon? As you can see, a lot have left to go to 3 of the 4 horsemen who design things. That's not a big deal. People trade players all the time. But now let's look at the reverse migration. Let's look at how many people from these companies have gotten employees from Facebook, Amazon, and Google. Hold on. We've had a net outflow. The 4 horsemen trade people all the time. And this is somewhat misleading because Amazon has 250,000 employees versus Facebook 16,000, and Apple, we include their retail employees. But effectively what this looks like is that Facebook is winning the talent war among the 4 horsemen because the lines out are thinner. And the net gains across these companies, both Facebook and Google, have had net accretive gains. Let's talk about Uber, which is definitely the it girl in terms of talent. The lines to Uber are pretty thick. The lines out are almost non-existent. 25% of all employees at Uber have come from one of the 4 horsemen. You want a job at Uber? Go to work for Facebook, Apple, Google, or Amazon. That is the equivalent of finishing school to go to work for Uber. Just because it's fun to pile on Yahoo right now, let's do the same thing. Yahoo has had some inflows of people. It's also had dramatic outflows. I said earlier in the year that Marissa Mayer would go down as the most overpaid CEO in the history of tech. I was looking at it the wrong way. It costs about $100,000 to recruit somebody into a tech firm. She's actually the most underpaid recruiter in the world for these 4 firms. What about society? If you look at the GDP of countries, it almost equates perfectly to their influence. These companies now have more influence than many countries that are in the news every day. Let's look at each of them. Amazon has a GDP or a market cap greater than the GDP of Iceland, Romania, Slovakia, and Bulgaria. Let's add in Apple. We get Ireland, Estonia, and Finland, Facebook, Belarus, and the Czech Republic. We add in Google, we pick up Denmark, Latvia, and the Ukraine. Essentially, these 4 firms are as influential as Eastern and Northern Europe. If we throw in Alibaba and pick one economy, these firms, as a combined entity, now have more influence than Russia. What are these firms doing with that influence? I believe they are trying to do to the U.S. economically what the South could not do militarily, and I believe they have decided to secede from the United States. They have better municipal infrastructure. They have opted out of healthcare and offer their own services. You can freeze your eggs at Facebook. In exchange for this, they have decided that they should no longer be warranted to the U.S. tax code.
We not only comply with the laws, but we comply with the spirit of the laws.
We comply with the spirit of the laws. No, not really. The spirit of U.S. tax laws is not that you can license your intellectual property to Ireland and then charge highly profitable domains a tax. That's right, you deflate the profits in high tax domains, increase the profits in low tax domains, thereby lowering your global tax rate. That is not the spirit of the U.S. tax code. Does that make Tim Cook a bad person? Absolutely not. He seems like a wonderful man. He has a fiduciary duty to pay as little taxes as possible and reward his shareholders. What is going on here? I think it is effectively the hot girl effect. I think lawmakers and regulators in the US and the UK are effectively not very attractive entities. The 4 horsemen are the equivalent of David Beckham and Gisele Bündchen. Everybody wants to hang out with them. Nobody wants to be the guy or gal that doesn't get it, that's not innovative. So they have entered into this unholy alliance of tax avoidance. However, I think there is good news. I think after being in abusive relationships for several years with the most profitable companies in the world, we have said if the best companies in the world are not going to pay their taxes, we're down with that. As long as they fight ISIS, upgrade our infrastructure, and educate our students. Countries are breaking up with Apple. They say, I've had enough of this abusive relationship. I am walking. The path to $1 trillion. One of these companies will get to $1 trillion over the next 3 years. Facebook monetization, Amazon acquisition, Google extension, Apple articulation, Facebook monetization. Facebook is growing faster than any firm of its size in the history. It's defying gravity. Its growth does not seem to continue to slow even as it approaches a run rate of $20 billion. It's growing its share of digital marketing, and its share is beginning to take share from Google of all people. However, it's really only monetized one of its 4 assets. The other 3, Messenger, WhatsApp, and Instagram, are just starting to be monetized. Instagram, the beginning, $1 billion acquisition, worth 20 now, best acquisition in the history of tech. WhatsApp, 900 million users in just 2 years. There is precedence for optimizing and monetizing messaging. WeChat gets about $5 per person. Other huge bets, other innovation will come as Facebook is now spending more per dollar in R&D than any tech company in history. They are the most nimble company, the most product generative, innovative company in the world. 3 years, 0% mobile. 3 years later, 76% of mobile. That is the greatest pivot in modern history. The case for $1 trillion is right now they have 1 billion daily active users. They monetize it for $16, $16 billion in revenue. They have a $300 billion market cap. That's a multiple of 19 times. What if they were to grow to 2 billion daily active users, get to $50 in monetization, which is a lower growth rate of monetization than they've experienced across their platforms over the last 3 years. They have $100 billion in revenue. I think that is a $1 trillion market cap company at 10x times revenue. Amazon needs to make acquisitions. Amazon's core competence is storytelling that results in the cheapest source of capital in the history of mankind. At some point tomorrow has to be today, and they're going to decide to cash in their chips and go profitable. They are opening stores. I think they should acquire Macy's and Carrefour. They end up with a combined company of $300 billion, EBITDA of 50, growth of 12%. And 50% of their revenue coming from bricks, 50% coming from online, the true omni-channel retailer of the future. They go from 68 fulfillment centers to 1,000, picking up Macy's, who have optimized their stores to become flexible warehouses with friendly people called sales associates. They pick up another couple thousand warehouses with Carrefour. It's a great time to buy. These companies' stocks are depressed. They can pay a 40% premium for their stocks in acquisition and only for a 15% dilution. Once they have these companies, last year, watch out, LVMH, Kering Group, and Richemont, here comes Apple. Watch out, UBS, FedEx, and DHL, here comes Amazon. Best company is about to get into the last mile and eat your lunch as you have increased prices faster than you have increased innovation. Google extension, Google knows they need a bigger business. How do you know if you're right to be disrupted? Your prices are greater than inflation. All of this, the gap between these two lines is trillions of dollars of market value. There was no underlying increase in innovation in cable. So in step the most innovative companies in the world saying we want part of that carcass. There is another though. There is an industry that is bigger, that is more profitable, is $1.6 trillion in the US versus $200 billion in the ad market, and has increased its prices faster than inflation than any market that size. What am I talking about? I'm talking about college. This is the place that the 4 horsemen need to go. I know this firsthand. I need 10 seconds. In 2 weeks, I kick off my brand new digital age class at NYU Stern. 325 kids have enrolled. They each pay $6,000 or $1.9 million for me in a room for 12 nights with a projector. That comes out to $163,000 a night. I'm good, I aspire to be great, but what I'm getting paid is insane. To give you an example, this is what these people make every week to perform. They are much better than me. I make more money than the entire cast of Star Wars, with the exception of Harrison Ford. Granted, my agent at NYU takes 97% commission, but it still gives you a sense for how ridiculous education costs can become. Although I will say, I think I would be an outstanding character in the next installment of Star Wars. J.J. Abrams, if you're watching. Adele makes approximately $150,000 per performance. To highlight the distinction between her talent and my talent, I'm about to do something you will never be able to unsee. Apple's path to $1 billion is one of articulation. Just as Jeff Bezos is a great storyteller, Tim Cook is a great operator, but he's not a good storyteller. Facebook, connecting the world, easy to understand, compelling, I'm going to buy their stock. Amazon, the world's biggest store, compelling, easy to understand, I'm going to buy their stock. Google, organizing the Earth's information, super compelling. What is Apple's mission? They don't have one that they can articulate. As a result, we don't evaluate their progress against their mission. Amazon can fail with the Fire, Google can fail with Glass, but with Apple, because we don't know if they're making progress against a larger mission, we evaluate them in the context of every product release, and they pay an absence of vision tax. All Apple needs to do to get to $1 trillion is show us what they're doing, articulate it in a compelling way, and if their multiple on EBITDA goes just to 12, boom, they're at $1 trillion. This is actually an absence of vision that is keeping them from $1 trillion. What does the future look like? Some head fakes, mass customization, a head fake. You can make your own Nikes. The reason I buy Nikes is someone in Portland has better taste than me. Mass customization makes no sense. Beacons. Hey, I'm a beacon. That's just my impersonation of beacon. Hey, there's a bunch of white guys that are Swiss German drinking coffee over there, and they're hanging out longer in that corner. Hey, beacons, what does that mean to me in terms of shareholder value? Beacon, I have no idea. No one can tell me how they've created shareholder value using beacons. The Internet of Things. You introduce some risk and complexity. There will be connected cars, but the vast majority of the marketplace for connected things is not going to shape up to be as big as we thought. And my favorite, 3D printing. We have the ultimate 3D printer that gives you everything fast when you want it. It's called China. What is the next big non-thing? Have we learned nothing? Tech companies cannot put things on your person unless you are Apple. Apple is not a tech company, it's a luxury brand. The next big head fake, virtual reality. I don't think this is going to live up to the expectations that the media and investors have placed on it. By the way, you do not look like this with Oculus on. You look like this. Whenever you are in a place with a lot of young people and a lot of alcohol, there's opportunity for random sexual encounters, which could be a bad idea. If you sense it might be a bad idea, say the following: I'm trading in my Google Glass for an Oculus. Game over, problem solved. It's going to change business. This is the narrative in virtual reality over the next 12 months. It's going to change business. It's going to change entertainment. No, it's going to change video games. Well, maybe not. It'll change commercial applications, no. No, it'll be niche commercial applications, and finally it'll change porn. Let's talk about size. Uber and Uber China now have a combined market cap of $70 billion, but they only have 2,000 going to 4,000 employees. In the last 3 days, Walmart and Yellow Cab have laid off 17,500. The market cap per employee of General Motors is $215 grand. Amazon is $1.5 million. Uber is $17.5 million, but that's not the whole story. There are 250,000 other people that work for Uber that go to get to participate in the upside of their stock. It started out great. Flexible hours, work whenever you want. However, they introduced UberX, and they're now lowering prices, and the wages of these employees is plummeting. The heroes of yesteryear used to put thousands of beautiful middle-class and upper-middle-class homes into the water. The heroes of today are producing a small number of yachts, and the middle class is just trying to struggle, trying to not take on water. What is the net of all this? As my team asked me last night, when kids come to me, a globalization, a frictionless nature, free flow of capital, the winner-take-all environment of the ecosystem that Amazon has trained all VCs to pursue, means that now it has never been easier to be a billionaire, but it's never been harder to be a millionaire. Equity. We like the idea of giving people ownership through stock. The top 50% of U.S. and American households have covered 95% of the income gains, mostly through equity. We then have this chaser afterburner effect by taxing equity at a lower rate. There is nothing equitable about equity in a digital age. Meaningful. I don't want to in any way reduce the impact technology is having. We're making wonderful products that'll be better for the environment. Young people who are talented, educated, and born in the right places have never had more opportunity. That's an important thing. We need inequality to a certain extent to inspire people. I love this message I got from Uber saying that a person who was hearing impaired was picking me up. please send the directions. That is a wonderful thing. There are some very meaningful things taking place. As you get older and you have kids, though, you find that the profound is access to healthcare, education, and housing for a reasonable rate, or safe harbor from violence. This is what's profound. In terms of technology and innovation's march, we're making huge progress against the meaningful, but on the profound we come up wanting. This is a religion. We come to these temples, technology and the worship of innovation is a religion, and this is our Jesus Christ. What do we know about Jesus Christ? A larger-than-life figure that was taken from us prematurely. What else do we know about Christ? He was the co-founder of Apple. What else do we know about Christ? He was the most innovative man of a modern age. The thing we tend to forget about Christ, especially in my market, the United States, is that Christ's father was a Syrian refugee. My name is Scott Galloway. I work at NYU and I appreciate your time.